Alright everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I am going to go ahead and give my review for Among the Sleep now that I have completed the prologue, and then I basically skipped the museum section because I decided to go ahead and watch it, and it ended up not being any really gameplay. It more like gives you behind the scenes look into the artwork and the um how the game was created, pretty much in like a museum setting, as you would think, like pictures and artwork, and it's been done many times. So if you want to see that, you can go and watch another video on it, or if you have the game yourself, then you obviously know what I'm talking about. Really the only other thing in it was uh it was a different ending. I believe it was an alternate ending to the game of the bear being evil. Um, so from what I heard, a lot of people are glad they changed the ending into what it is now. But that's pretty much what the museum was, and then we did the prologue. So now I'm going to go ahead and do my review so that I can go on to my next game, which I will talk about afterwards. So, first one. Oh man, my display is messed up. One is interest value. So does it pique in the gamer's interest? This is an older game. I guess I should have looked. I'm not super prepared, I guess, now that I thought I was. But I do believe it is somewhat at least 7 years old, this game. So I kind of have to take that into account, that it's almost a decade old, if not a decade old. I'm just not sure. Um, I think it is an interesting game from the synopsis. So if I look that up really quick. Actually, I could look up when 2014. So it's over 8 years old. Okay. Um, Give me my synopsis. So basically, it's a first-person exploration game in the body of a toddler, basically. You can walk, you can crawl, um, and you're basically trying to figure out how to maneuver through different rooms, different settings, different obstacles. Um, it doesn't really explain what you're after. You're kind of looking for your mom from the beginning. She kind of, I don't want to say goes missing, but like there's scary things happening, and you as a toddler, your instinct is to go find a parent. So you're trying to find your mom. Um, your bear helps you through different areas. You find different things that link you to your mom. And basically you're trying to figure out what all these scary things are that are happening at the current moment. For those that have watched the series, you obviously know what happened. We went into it, what I thought about it, so I'm not going to go into it again. I think from the synopsis, I think it would interest people. Granted, it is an older game and it is an indie. A lot of people, I'm surprised as many people that I know about it from my server. And it was rated a really good game. I liked it. I do think the cover and the description would hook quite a few people. So I think based off that, I think I would give it an 8. It's not super enthralling, I guess you could say, especially for an indie. So that's why I gave it the score I did. Ease of control. Are the controls easy to learn? Yes. There's not too many. Basically, you crawl, you walk, you pick up objects, you put objects, like you take objects from your inventory to use, like such as keys to open gates, things like that. The only issue I had is I think it was set up strange in my opinion. Like start was exactly as you thought, it would pause, but like I would think like select would be to open inventory or something. or actually no, it was Y open inventory, which was fine, but then you had to use like right button or right trigger to use an object once you shifted through them to the one you wanted. When I was thinking you would use like A, so I just kept hitting A all the time when I was looking at an object instead of right button, because there's this instinct to me that it would be A and it wasn't. But otherwise the controls seemed fine. I don't believe I could have changed the mapping of the controls. I think it was set up the way it's set up. So controls wise, I'm gonna give it a 9. Just because some of the buttons I think could have been mapped out a little bit differently. Graphics. As I said, this game's almost a decade old, and I think the graphics are fine for it, considering you're playing as a toddler thing. A lot of areas were really colorful, a lot of areas were really dark. Things were over dramatized to make it scarier or happier. So I think the graphics were fine, as I said, comparing to the age of the game. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and give it a 10 for that. Can't really knock it considering how old it is. Freedom of play. No. It had a set story. There weren't really any like side stories, or like you could do your own exploring, and obviously if you didn't explore certain areas you would miss objects, but there wasn't a lot of free play per se. You followed the story, found the main objects easy enough to continue on with said story. I mean, you could have looked for like extras in the game, which I'll go into when I get to extras. But pretty much you followed a set story and didn't get to do too much exploring. But I can't really blame it necessarily for that. It was designed in mind that way, so I'm not gonna like judge it too harshly for it. But I think I am gonna give it probably like, I'll probably give it a 7 for that, in all honesty. I'm more of a person that likes freedom of play, and I don't like set storylines. I mean, like, not every game can be like Elden's kind of free play. That's a lot of free play. But like when I'm hoping a game has a set storyline and has free play, I'm thinking more like, I don't know, a good one in my opinion that I can think of is like Outlast. It has a set storyline, and you obviously can't progress in the game unless you do more of the story. However, there's like so many rooms and so many areas you can go through that you can get lost. You basically can take it at your own pace. I'm sorry. But that's kind of like the free play I'm looking for in a game, is you're gonna follow your set story, but you're also gonna have the ability to move around and not be like secluded to one area. So in this game, if you had watched the gameplay, and when you're in the house, you're in the house. You have rooms to explore, but you can't like go outside. Unless you're watching the prologue, you don't go in a basement. You don't like, there's not too many ways you could veer off course and get lost, I guess, is what I'm looking for. Whereas in Outlast, there's so many rooms and hallways and areas to go in, you could get lost easy. And there's just lots of free roaming, whereas in here, not really. It's a linear path, I guess you could say. So I think that's why I kind of feel like I have to give it a 7. An 8 almost feels too high for me. Granted, it is a good game. I am not trying to say this is a bad game at all, especially considering when it came out. It is highly rated. But just, as I've stated numerous times, my review is just my personal review. Like, what I think about the game. The game story, so you know that, in my opinion, most people would say, I think a 10 out of 10. I know a couple people that wouldn't. But I do think it's an interesting take on the trauma a child goes through when it comes to this, especially younger. Children don't understand when parents argue and there's lots of yelling and things happen all around them. They just don't understand it. So, like, when the mom's in a drunken rage or the dad's arguing with the mom, things like that. Sometimes a child will see basically monsters to them. And this game pretty portrayed it really, really well, in my opinion, the way it was. So for me, it's a 10 out of 10 for game story. I have no problem giving it a high score for that. The extras, as I was explaining earlier, it does have a few extras. So there were a few achievements. I did go back and finish all the achievements. I did get the plat for this game after I finished recording. So, you could find every section of the game. There were a certain amount of drawings, like child drawings, scribbles that you could find. And there were 6 or 7 areas. So you could get achievements for those if you found the drawings. You also had an achievement for playing bowling in the kids' room. You had an achievement for finding the music box. Not it's this music box that it's being shown now, but it's not finding it currently. Later on in the game, it's hidden in a tiny room. So if you find it, that's an achievement. And then there was one about finding the musical instruments, which in this game there's only 2. It was the piano and the xylophone. If you found and like basically played with both of them, you got that achievement. But basically you'd only know that one. I'm sorry. I'm obviously getting a little bit ill, but if you were, it was a secret achievement, the musical one, so you'd only get it really if you like to explore everything, which I normally do, and I end up finding the xylophone my first go. But I had to look up what the other musical instrument was, because I was like, I cannot figure this out. And it wasn't even a child's instrument. It was the grand piano in the living room of the house. You had to climb up onto it, open it up, and play it. But I did like the achievements. It was a couple extras. Nothing crazy, like a lot of other games have with extras. But I do think it was pretty good for it being an indie. So I'm probably going to give it a 9 for that. Time. Length of game. Oh, I should have looked it up. Usually, from what I go with, I go a point per hour. I think it had probably... Oh, God. I'm going to have to... I guess I could look from my other... I'm going to look it up because I want to make sure I get it right. I was going to say, I think there was only 6 videos. It's 1, 2, 3... And then the prologue. So if I count the prologue... I'm sorry. If I count the prologue and the museum, it's like 5 hours worth of gameplay, which is not a lot. But as I said, most of my other ones, I did say that I would give a point per hour. But granted, at the time, I was playing only AAA title games and not a lot of indies. I think this is one of the very first indie reviews I've done, besides Outlast. But Outlast had a crap ton of gameplay for what it was. I think I might bend it a little bit. Instead of giving this a 6 for the time, I may give it like a 7. I'll just give it 1 point extra, considering it is an indie, but the price of this game, which I will talk about in the next one, the price doesn't justify the amount of time of gameplay. Outlast was if I remember, I think it was a $30 game as well, and this one was like a $25 when I bought it, maybe $20. And Outlast had twice the amount of gameplay as this does. So I'm only going to give this a 7. I'll just be, to me, another extra point on top of the amount of hours that the gameplay is generous. Replayability. Not really. Once you play it once, you really don't have to play it again, unless, like me, you wanted to get the plat for it, and you had to go back and get achievements, and then, thank the Lord, you actually could go chapter by chapter instead of replaying the whole game. Otherwise, it would have taken me forever to get the rest of these achievements, so I definitely give it kudos for that you can go chapter by chapter, instead of replaying the whole game. But there are no different endings. There are no different characters. Once you know the story, you know the story. There's really no need to replay it unless if obviously they made, like, the DLC was the prologue at the museum, but then you don't have to replay the whole story again. You just have to play the DLC aspect of it, that part alone. So replayability, not really. So I'm gonna give it a 7 for that. The price, as I was discussing earlier, I don't think the price is justified for the amount of time of gameplay. Now if I base it off the story, then yeah, it was really good. But I don't know if I want to base it solely off that. But granted, but then there was also DLC, and I bought the enhanced edition, so it already came with the DLC, so I'm not really sure how much it was by itself, which I guess could have changed my thought on the extras of the game. But if it was like a $15 game, and then I guess each DLC would have been $5, that might have been justifiable for how long the game was, now that I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna give it, I'll give it an 8 on price, because I do think that the Prologue DLC added quite a bit, but not necessarily the museum. The Prologue DLC was really good. I did enjoy that quite a bit. It added a lot to the story, but the museum, not necessarily. It was a lot of info, I guess, if you wanted to know background on a game, which a lot of people don't really care. But given the alternate ending that was originally thought of for the game was pretty interesting. I did enjoy that quite a bit. But I am just going to leave it at an 8. I think that's pretty fair for the price based on the length and what you got for the game. Now, my personal score, I really did enjoy playing this game. It was not too scary, so like people that are kind of iffy about horror but like a good story would be able to play this. It was more like jump scares, but nothing really disastrous could happen unless you just kind of stood there and let things come at you, which doesn't happen until about halfway through the game. It was more the darkness, and the Teddy was always telling us to be silent in areas where really we didn't have to be, so it made it scarier than necessary. So I do think it was good. So my personal feelings about the game, I think I'm gonna give it an 8. I was pretty happy with it. So overall, if we add everything up between all the scores, it's with a 83, which kind of sounds low, but basically that would be an 8.3 out of 10, which to me makes it sound higher than an 83 out of 100. But I calculate it both ways, like a grade score, I guess you could say. And a lot of reviews, I think, gave it a 9. Let me look on Google really quick. It probably tells me 9. Yeah, I got a 9 out of 10 on Steam. 97% of people that played it liked it. So, I mean, me giving it an 8 out of 10, it's basically 1 point less than what the average was. And I'm being kind of critical about it. So, I think 8.3 out of 10 is pretty good score for it. So, overall, yes, I did like it. That score gives it a B grade. Do I wish it was longer? Yes. Do I wish it was extras? Yes. But it wasn't designed with that in mind. But granted, that's just what I wish it had. But overall, I do like this game. I do recommend it. It's an easy play. It's fun. So that's pretty much it. I think what I'm going to do next is Madison did come out, and I've heard really good things about it, but I think a lot of people that I've heard a few people not like it because some of the puzzles are tricky, and you can be stuck on some for quite a bit of time, which kind of lessens the scare factor of the game from what they said. But that's been out for almost a month now. I'm behind on what I'm trying to play, and it's hard to catch up because like on top of everything else I do, I'm also trying to do Elden or fit in Elden when I can, as I promised you guys I would play. And then so that's not going to get uploaded that often, but when I have time and I don't feel like playing a horror game or the other one I happen to be playing, because I'm pretty much playing 3 games at the same time, then I'll do Elden. So it's going to take a while before I obviously finish Elden for you all. Even doing it in hour segments is still going to take me time. But that's just like extra. But I'm also doing, as I explained a while back, I was thinking about doing a horror game and then a non-horror game at the same time, because I have like 60 horror games. I think I have like 250 some games for Steam, and 60 of them are just plain horror category. I have like 10 or 11 categories. Just my OCD wants it all like categorized. So like I have RPGs and um free to play, which obviously I won't record for you guys, but then I have horror, and horror takes just like 60 plus games of it. I'm thinking my next horror is going to be Mortuary's Assistant. I've been waiting on that game to come out since I played the demo from the Steam Fest at the beginning of the year, and the demo was fantastic. I really appreciate it, and I did give kudos to the creator. I think it was a brilliant idea that he made the demo with alternate scares. So everybody that played the demo, there were multiple different ways that the scares appeared in the game. It wasn't all the same, which I think was fantastic, because most devs, when they put out a demo, it's the same for everybody because it's just a demo. But this dev went above and beyond and did different multiple scares, because I played it twice myself and had different scares. Some of them were same scares, but it was different points of the game. It wasn't the exact same moment. It was like 10 minutes later, or when you did something different, it was the same scare, but you weren't expecting it. So I gave enormous kudos for that. And I said when that game came out, I was buying it, and I was definitely going to play it. So it is finally out. It's been out for a couple days. And I am going to get to it. I kind of gave it some time because I know when new games come out, especially indies, it's not always perfect. No shade thrown at the solo dev. He did a wonderful job from what I'm hearing from other people that have played it so far. But there were kinks that had to be worked out. There have been 3 patches since it's been released. So I think that is going to be my next game. After that, I don't know. I have, as I said, 60 plus horror games sitting on my computer on Steam. So I'm super excited. I think definitely Mortuary's Assistant is coming next, while I'm also doing Elden Ring. And then I am still currently working on Stray as well. I definitely need to get back to that. It kind of just depends on my mood, as I've described before. If I'm in a horror game mood, then I will play horror for you guys. If I'm not in a mood to be scared or not like just up for it, then I'll just play Elden or some other game. But I am technically doing 3 games at once. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. So that's just a little mini update for you guys as well. I think I'm going to leave it there. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And as always, I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.